Welcome to World Mission Topics, Lesson 3. Today's topic is God kept his promises to Israel. The lesson text is coming out of Deuteronomy chapter 8, verses 1 through 8, Joshua chapter 21, verses 43 through 45, Psalms 105, verses 42 through 45. The memory verse is Joshua chapter 21, verse 43. And the Lord gave unto Israel all the land which he sware to give unto their fathers, and they possessed it and dwelt therein. The key terms for today's lesson: bountiful, covenant, the patriarchs. Bountiful, liberal or generous in bestowing blessing. Covenant, a formal, solemn, and binding agreement. The patriarchs, the scriptural fathers of the Hebrew people. Suggested emphasis: when Israel stood at the threshold of the promised land, and Moses was preparing them one last time to receive their inheritance, he rehearsed the promises God had made to their ancestors. Through his prophet, the Lord professed his love for the nation, which of course was an enlargement of his love of their forefathers. See Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 37. He had established a covenantal bond with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. On account of his relationship with them, he had delivered the nation from bondage in Egypt. Now another pledge to the patriarchs was about to materialize. The Israelites were to be given Canaan for conquest. Emphasis 1. Provision in the wilderness. God's commitment to the Israelite forefathers was a reflection of his divine attribute of faithfulness. It was important that this generation understand and appreciate the character of God. He would perpetually uphold the covenantal blessings if they would keep their end of the bargain, and that's found in Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 1. He would love on those who loved him, but he would not hesitate to punish or even destroy those who rejected him. Amazingly, God had already demonstrated that he could creatively balance the punishment of covenant breakers with the fulfillment of his promises to the patriarchs. The generation of Israelites that drew back from him in unbelief perished during their sojourn in the wilderness, like the holding pattern of an airplane that cannot land because of turbulence. The nation traversed the periphery of Canaan until that older generation died out, and Moses could highlight for this second generation they had already seen the covenantal faithfulness of God. He had provided for them in the desert. The Israelites were consistently fed and clothed and kept healthy. And that's Deuteronomy chapter 8, verses 3 and 4. The wilderness experience was in no way neglectful. Instead, whatever hardships they faced were only a type of fatherly discipline for the children of Israel. And that's Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 5. Emphasis 2. Bountifulness in Canaan. Now the Lord was bringing them into a bountiful situation. They would no longer experience scarcity of food or water. Moses plainly told them God was giving them great and goodly cities, which thou buildest not, and houses full of all good things, which thou fillest not, and wells digged, which thou diggest not, vineyards and olive trees, which thou plantest not. And that's Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 10 and 11. The sudden reversal of fortune could spoil them. They could develop an unhealthy sense of privilege. They could come to believe in their hearts that they deserved this prosperity, that they had gotten it by their own strength or through their own meritorious actions. Instead, Moses warned them to remember the Lord thy God, for it is he that giveth thee power to get wealth. And that's Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 18. In fact, their material blessing would be the outer working of the covenant agreement. Emphasis 3. God honored his word to the patriarchs. What we read in Deuteronomy was an address to people on the verge, but still outside of the promised land. To determine how it turned out for them, we must look to later points in the historical record. At the end of the book of Joshua, we are told, and the Lord gave unto Israel all the land which he sware to give unto their fathers, and they possessed it, and dwelt therein. And that's Joshua chapter 21, verse 43. Ultimately, the conquest was complete, and the Israelites enjoyed peace all around. The narrator could boldly assert that there failed not aught of any good thing which the Lord had spoken unto the house of Israel. All came to pass. And that's Joshua chapter 21, verse 45. God held the covenant with Abraham and the patriarchs in high esteem. Although the children of Israel repeatedly broke covenant, the Lord was unwilling to throw away the relationship for the memory of his servant Abraham. And that's Psalms 105, verse 42. God wanted to keep his promise, so he kept showing mercy and forbearance to the Israelites. And he didn't do it grudgingly. The word says he rejoiced over Israel. He figuratively shouted and sang songs over them. And that's Psalms 105, verse 43. He gave them the heathen's land for an inheritance, giving them an opportunity to keep the covenant from that point on. He was for them and remains for us, the God of the second chance. Missions application questions. Number 1, how had God already balanced the fulfillment of his promise to the patriarchs with his punishment of the faithfulness? I'm going to repeat that question. How had God already balanced the fulfillment of his promise to the patriarchs with his punishment of the faithless Israelites in the wilderness? Number 2, why did Moses warn the Israelites to remember God as they prepared to enter the promised land? Number 3, as you look back on your own life, how has God fulfilled promises to you? What are you still waiting to see manifested in your life? World Missions Prayer Points. Let us pray that blessings in this life never fool us into trusting in our own strength. Let us pray that the promises God has fulfilled in our lives stay at the forefront of our memories. The end. God bless you and thank you for joining me today.